Welcome to Java. Thank you kindly for joining me. It is October 18th, 2024. It is Friday. We've got quite a bit to go into prior to the weekend. Is possible False Flag Friday. We are looking forward to the United States elections happening now, winding down to the last couple of weeks. So seems like everything in between is an advertisement for one way or another. We've got quite a bit to cover today, so let's go ahead and get started with this. Risk first, we've got the MMRI 263.7 still elevating slowly. Now, yesterday was a bit of a surprise day. And why do I say that? It did continue, for the most part, pulled back and then was positive over the day, ended barely green. However, the interesting part of it was that the morning reports were positive, should have been positive for the market, but not so much as one would have expected. We also have fear greed meters still in the greed zone, so that's quite strong. There's still retailers in here. Now, we're watching a bit more as the market hits highs that we see some institutional selling at those points and pulling off the uh, resistance levels. So, what happened yesterday? We got good numbers with the jobs reports, but they didn't quite react in the way that they should have been more of a reaction towards the positive side. As it was, markets closed, as I said, barely green, little above, but we did have the ECB, European Central Bank, lower their rates again. Now, as they lower the rates, basically that hits their currency weakens, it strengthens the other Western currencies. Now, yesterday, we had a stronger US dollar. It's pulling back a bit this morning. As you can see here, I put up the chart of the basic currency relativities. Now, as the European Central Bank cut, that made the dollar stronger and that put a bit of pressure on the markets again. So we're watching the 10-year yield and the dollar gained a bit of strength. It did put a bit of pressure on the markets yesterday despite the good news. Now, along with this, we watched cryptocurrencies hitting back up towards that 68,000 level for Bitcoin. So they're in a very positive territory. And gold hitting an all-time high. Now, gold's sitting right around 2,700. It's above that level right now. We've got silver a little more mixed, but above the $32 level. So we have to watch and see where these go from here. We're kind of at a flux in the marketplace, if you will. We'll go over everything behind this. So the sentiment right now is that the market didn't take the kick it should have yesterday. So it's still basically neutral to volatile. Still energy, still the play forward. Now we've got crude oil down because this is on the supply demand concern. So when you take all of these together, specifically gold being up and crude oil demand expectations being down, that's showing a very weak market ahead. And I'll go into a few more of these factors. But first off, we're looking at the markets and then also currency trades. We had Japan, their top official warned that they were watching the market after the yen weakened beyond the 150 per dollar. So while they said they're not going to hike, they may take another action, which could happen in the debt market with the treasuries in order to bolster basically their economy, keep themselves going, because they've got to watch their inflation and economy as well. Yen carry trade still a possibility. Calendar today, housing starts, building permits, and then also the other mover really was American Express. Now these all happened pre-market. We watched American Express had 6% growth in spending and the stock heading higher. This does not mean necessarily stronger economy. They're saying benefits to new members are hitting younger generations. Really, what's going on is people are having to depend on the credit cards more than normal. So, with this expanding their debt, and that does not mean that the economy is strong. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but first, the banks. TD's money laundering scandal reviving allegations of what they're calling too big to jail. So they had massive fines given and yet no criminal allegations or basically charges going on. So with this, we're watching a few other things going on in banking that we'll watch forward. First off, Russia presenting Apple Pay replacement. The new service will allow iOS and Android users to make contactless payments. It is through their national card operator, and they are also moving this over, it doesn't say here, but to their national cryptocurrency. So the e-ruble beginning to take over with their new payment system. This is moving over to basically their stable coin. And we've got the UAE is the latest. As you can see here, stablecoin Assure getting the nod from their central bank. So uh, they are looking at competing with basically Tether. It's Durham Peg token, and they're moving their central bank into this great central bank digital currency world that we are all moving toward eventually. So smaller story here, sort of. And by smaller, I mean really more in the background and suppressed, and it is a larger story. It's European bank mergers back on the table. ECB, European banks also on the chopping block, as well as American ones. Now, to dig a little deeper into the economy, why I say that with all of this good news regarding the jobs numbers being well, American Express getting more business, the reality is that right here, this says it all. The math says it's getting harder to break into the American middle class, not just getting harder to break into it, but to stay in it. So, some major milestones are becoming frustratingly unattainable for many families, helping create economic pessimism. Hanging over the election is what this is saying. Now, we've got several basically negative indicators for the economy and what it's doing. We've got an economy that is moving offshore again. We've got restaurants battling for survival. The business has changed, quote unquote, by the closures. Fridays and Mondays are gone. This is because the American consumer is holding back, they are retracting in their spending, and the consumerism is going down. Now, we've got a couple of other stories with this. John Deere facing farmer boycott after laying off 2,100 US workers and moving more of their work to Mexico. Now, we had Trump say in September that he would put a 200% tariff on John Deere imports, basically, if the company went ahead with moving the production to Mexico. At the start of the year, they employed about 22,000 salaried production workers across 2 states. More than 10,000 went on strike in 2021. They won a 10% increase for the pay for hourly workers, and then they increased their retirement business. So now, company pointed to a 20% fall in sales in the past year, 2023. So now more layoffs are expected. So they're looking forward with this, trimming the company and cutting back. And this is going to be another example for businesses going forward. We can see this across the board in the auto industry. We've got Italy's car industry facing an existential threat if manufacturers led by Stellantis don't reverse the trend of declining production. Now, they're cutting back production because the sales are not cutting it. So, with this, they just don't have the work available and they're going to cut back. Now, we've got a very interesting story as far as the strikes going on with Boeing. Now, Boeing to lay off about 17,000 workers. They've got a major strike going on. They decided to halt negotiations. But we've got Ryanair, boss of Ryanair, the CEO, urging Boeing to hold their ground and not bow down to striking workers. Why is this interesting? Because Ryanair is one of the largest purchasers from Boeing of their craft. And they have told them basically they would stand by them, and that if they would just hold off with this, they understand that it means that their planes would not arrive until later, but they don't want them basically bowing down into this major pay hikes that would raise costs over the long run for all of them. So he understands that in the long run, it's not good to go beyond this. With this, we also had a major paint company laying off 1,800 workers, and they've got to close facilities. Now, they produce paints, coatings, and specialty materials, but basically they're selling off a large portion of the business and closing down some in order to cost cut, trying to survive. Now, moving over basically in the larger war sphere and things that are affecting mostly oil and some of the other supply chains and other things going on, the GDP in the United States is a war economy. So, with this, we had Israel basically saying that they have killed the attack mastermind for Gaza. Now, his name is Yahweh Sinwar. He is dead. Now, because of this, Iran is hinting at a powerful response to him killing. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu Bibi is holding a consultation today with Defense Minister Gallant and a small group of their ministers. Now, basically, they're going to discuss going further with this and hostage negotiations. We'll see how this comes out. Now, jumping over to Russia, basically, we've got some North Korean infantry troops fighting for Russia in Ukraine. There's nearly 11,000 North Korean troops there now fighting for them, and they're continuing training for them, expecting they will be ready to fight by November 1st. It's coming up very quickly here. Now, with this, we've got on the other side, Zelensky is pretty much demanding to be in NATO, saying that he would rather go into NATO, but if they're not accepted, they may resort to basically nuclear war. So with all of this, we'll see if this video gets published. I hope that it does. I'm speaking about things that are basically not very well welcomed by the channel, by the channel's source, basically. And so we want to take all of these things into account prior to Friday happening. Any of these could explode, and they will basically cause major concerns on Monday. But with this, I wish you all a wonderful weekend, great trading day if you're trading. And until I see you again, my friends, stay free.